Good morning, everybody. This is Eric Clark's Travel Videos. I'm in Sarajevo right now, Bosnia, and I'm going to head over to Visoko, which is where the Bosnian pyramids are. On their literature, their website, it says that they're older than the Egyptian pyramids, bigger than the Egyptian pyramids. I guess I'm going to go take a look and see. I think they do tours. They have lots of kilometers and kilometers of tunnels underneath the pyramids. They're supposed to be on some kind of equator line, as well as healing properties and all sorts of different things, the website says. So I'm gonna go take a look and I'll give you my thoughts and my videos from that experience. See you guys there. Hi everybody, this is Eric Clark's Travel Videos, and I'm on the bus, and it was bus number 5, and I just wanted to show you it leaves at 8 in the morning, so it's about 7:50 right now. So it's 7:48 actually, and so I get on at 8 o'clock, and the total cost was $8.80, I think, and so that comes to about, what, $5? And this is gate 5, and I don't know what that is, but anyway, so this is the ticket, and I don't know how often they go, and this is on a Sunday, so I don't know if the schedule's a little different, but the cost is nothing. $4 to get there, $5 to get there. And then my return is, it looks like I have one at noon, one at 4, 15:36, and I think 1:30. I had to write them down for me up on top there, but anyway, that's it everybody. I'm off to the races, off to Visoko, where the pyramid is. So I gotta get a taxi, but I hate to tell you this, but I guess that is the pyramid. That is enormous. That's like 10 Egyptian pyramids. It's like a mountain, but it is a pyramid, and it looks just about perfect. Okay, I guess I'm heading there. Okay, bye. 5 km. Yeah, I'm just pyramid. He's taking me to the pyramid, and you can see it back there. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, I'm just doing a video for but. Yeah, pretty amazing. So I guess we'll see as I get closer. But anyway, I just want to let you know you have to take a taxi unless you want to walk about an hour and a half up a mountain. Bye-bye. Okay, he slowed down so we can take a video, but that's the pyramid right there. You can see it right here. That's the big pyramid, and it is big. So wow, crazy. Okay, I guess we're in. So the park is up this little tiny road. It looks kind of a hairy little place, and it looks like you're in the wrong spot for sure. But it's called the Ravine 2. It looks like Park Ravine 2. I see. So you don't really get to the bottom of the pyramid. They park you here, and then you have to take a tour from here. Okay, so this is what you get. It's, I guess it's so new that they don't have any time to do anything. And so it's like a little tiny nothing. And so the taxi dropped me off at this place, which is the underground tours. It's an hour-long tour that goes through, and it's all the tunnels underneath the pyramid and stuff. You can walk to the pyramid. It's 2.5 kilometers that way, and this is really it. And I think they just graded this. I mean, this all looks like it's all brand new kind of stuff. So I guess I'll figure that out. It's 10 euros for the underground tour, which is like 20 marks. But it's kind of interesting. There's no ATMs. I don't even know that they have bathrooms. And so it's kind of a cluster. Okay, but just letting you know. So I guess the underground tours is, I guess, where I'll start at, and then I'll head to the pyramid. But certainly interesting. Bye. Okay, so the guy gave me a rock, and this is what the whole mountain is made out of. It's all crystalline, whatever it is. But he says this is what the mountain's made out of. And that's where you get the special healing powers, I guess. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Bye-bye. The picture's kind of faded, but I'll give you a rundown. So this is one is the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, Pyramid of the Moon, the Pyramid of the Bosnian Dragon, Temple of Mother Earth, Bosnian Pyramid of Love, Underground Labyrinth, labyrinth and ravine, underground KTK tunnels, and then whatever that is. And so if you look at it, this is how it all gets broken down. So Pyramid of the Sun, and they've got a beam coming out of it, and that's the big mountain. And then I don't know how, I mean, it says 2 is the Pyramid of the Moon, but I don't know how that looks like a pyramid. I guess maybe they built that up. 3 is the Pyramid of the Bosnian Dragon. 4 is the Temple of Mother Earth. 7 is the underground KTK tunnels, and that's where I'm at, I think, now. And I think that the tunnels go underneath all the way over to there. But this is it. So this is where I'm going, and this is the Pyramid of the Sun. And it does look like a pyramid. From this side, anyway, it looks like a pyramid. I guess if you were standing over this way, it might not. But anyway, these are the things they found there, the artifacts of the items. And it almost looks Egyptian, huh? I mean, because that kind of looks Egyptian. But, and then here's some more diagrams for you. Huh. Okay. Well, I guess I'm gonna jump on the tour and I'll go inside and see what we get.
Everything started in 2005 when Dr. Semir Osmanagić was invited to the town of Visoko. He was actually invited by the local museum back then to take a look at some artifacts and to visit some historical sites of the town. But as he was approaching the town, from the local highway, he noticed this strange looking hill rising above the town. The distinct pyramidal shape, 4 triangular sides. He climbed on top, he took out his compass, and then he saw actually that the 4 sides are oriented. It was north, east, west, and south. This orientation is a quality of every major pyramid in the world. Now, starting from those in Egypt, South America, North America, Asia, you have pyramids oriented just like this. And this was clue number 1 that we have here in artificial structure, a pyramid. In the same year, he started first surface excavations on the pyramid. The key excavations were conducted on the edges, right here, and on the bottom of the northern side. When the surface layer of the soil was removed right here, he saw actually that the sides of the pyramid meet at a right angle. So he actually saw an edge sticking out of the ground when he removed the soil. On the bottom of the northern side, when the soil was removed, he saw huge rectangular concrete blocks. This is artificial material, meaning the structure itself is artificial. And in the same year, he started doing preliminary measurements of the pyramid. The first measurement of height, we actually got a number of 220 meters. This made it the highest pyramid in the world. For example, if you compare it to the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau, that pyramid has a height of 147 meters.
So twice as high.
The sun is almost twice as high, but that was in 2005. In 2017, we bought a piece of land just below the first excavation sites. We opened another excavation site over there, and we saw the same exact material just continuing down, the same slope, the same material. So now we can measure a height of 270 meters at least. Also, in the same year, 2005, this foundation was established. It's a non-profit, non-governmental organization, and Dr. Sam started writing his first book regarding the pyramids here. In that book, he wrote that someday we will find tunnels, because every big pyramidal complex in the world has underground tunnels. The research team of the foundation arrived here in 2006, actually. They were actually brought here by the local citizens, because the people that live around here always knew that in this hill there was a small entrance. And for years, they thought it was a cave, a natural cave, but when we started first georadar scanning and first excavations, we saw it was a huge network of artificially made underground tunnels spanning below this hill.
And where are we at on this map?
Right here, at this corner.
Okay.
The tunnels themselves have been built 30,000 years ago, but for some reason, some unknown civilization buried them 5,000 years ago. So that's the main goal here, is to clear the tunnels, actually. That's what we've been doing since 2006, clearing the tunnels of the second material, because you have 2 materials. You have the one which is in the walls, in the ceiling, and in the ceiling of the tunnels. In geology, we call it the conglomerate material, and it's completely natural. It has layered here for a huge period of time. This whole hill, it's consisted of this conglomerate. The civilizations dug inside the conglomerate, but the second civilization brought a second type of material, a loose, gravelly material from the bottom of the rivers, the riverbeds of the surrounding rivers, and used it to fill up the tunnels. Now, it's still a big mystery why they do that and by what means. This is what we're trying to discover here. That's why we're clearing the tunnels right now, and this is what we've been doing since 2006. So taking the second material out. So far, we've cleared more than 2 kilometers of this tunnel network. And as I said, a lot of people think that upon entering the tunnels, they're entering the pyramid. You actually thought you were near the pyramid, or the cap option. The pyramid is actually 2.5 kilometers from this location, southeast. So looking at the poster, you see it here, and we are currently standing at this corner of the poster. But we did a georadar scanning of the hill. We saw that the tunnels actually lead us towards the pyramid. That's why we're trying to follow this southeastern direction of clearing the tunnels, because someday we're going to enter the pyramid through the tunnel system. But apart from the first structure, the Pyramid of the Sun, the tallest, the highest pyramid in the world, we have other structures. The second one is the Pyramid of the Moon. Here you see 2 edges meeting at the top. You see the pyramidal shape. And you'll always see this structure at any pyramid here, the so-called access plateau. Every pyramid here has an access plateau. Also the same sort of concrete. It's like an access ramp. It gives you access to the top. You see something similar in the Pyramid of the Sun also. After that, this structure was discovered. Same type of concrete on that also. It was named the Pyramid of the Dragon. We also did satellite imaging of the 3 structures, because we actually saw that through satellite imaging we saw that between their peaks we have exactly the same distance, 2,180 meters exactly. So they make like an equilateral triangle between them. Actually, apart from the 3 main structures, we have 2 more. Just behind the Pyramid of the Sun, we have the Pyramid of Love. Now, the Pyramid of Love is a semi-artificial structure, because we have concrete on 3 artificial sides, but with the 4th side, it was built into the hill, natural hill behind it. And the access ramp, or the access plateau, is actually a natural hill. The same thing we have here. This structure is called the Temple of Mother Earth. You see 2 edges, 3 artificial sides, and the structure has been built in this amphitheater-like hill. Apart from this tunnel complex, another one was discovered. So in the town, where the river Visočica meets river Bosnia, at this side, we actually found another entrance. These tunnels are called tunnels KTK, because once there was a factory here in former Yugoslavia. This factory was also named KTK. But actually we found several underground passages. One of the passages goes below the river Visočica. Unfortunately, upon excavations, water started coming in from the river, flooded the entire complex. Now we had to close it for safety reasons. But this discovery led us to do a georadar scanning of the valley at different key sites. And we discovered a huge network of underground tunnels, connecting every structure together. Now we estimate that we have at least 10 kilometers of the tunnel system, so it's a huge network. There are also interesting facts. For example, below the 3 main pyramids, we detected huge water accumulations below the pyramid. And during the summer months, it was noticed that when the sun sets to the west behind the Pyramid of the Sun, the pyramid casts a shadow that directly covers the Pyramid of the Moon. So we say that we have some sort of cosmological connection between them, apart from this geometric connection between them 3. So that's why they got their names, Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon. Now you're going to grab a helmet, then we'll hang it.
Matter which helmet? This one that's...
Because there are some locations, there are low ceilings. If you have any questions at any point, feel free to ask.
Okay.
We also, because this is an important artifact, in general everything is an important artifact, we're trying to preserve everything. Don't touch the tunnel walls, don't sit or walk on these over these blocks, mega ceramic blocks, also very important.
Okay.
If it was a bigger group, I would say stick to the group, but
Yeah, it's just you and me. Okay.
You can take videos, you can take photos.
Okay.
Wow. Let's go.
Well, it is low, isn't it?
Yeah, in this first section. Okay, so immediately upon entering the tunnels, I always say to the people, you generally notice a few differences. Now, you might have noticed the change in temperature. It's a bit warmer here.
A little bit.
This is because the temperature in the tunnels is constant, 12 to 12.5 degrees Celsius. It never changes. So it doesn't matter if it's summertime or wintertime, the temperature here is always the same. That's why, also because of the high humidity, you always have condensation. For example, in the glass, on the wooden supports, you always have these small puddles of water. So we actually had huge floods in Bosnia in 2014. There was never a change in the tunnels. Always a bit humid, always a bit wet. When there are huge droughts, also the same. So nothing changes. Even these big changes don't affect the tunnel complex at all. Like, it's not even connected to the surface at all. And the second thing you're going to notice is how easily you breathe while you're in the tunnels. So at one point in the store, you'll be 250 meters from the entrance, 40 meters underground, and you'll breathe quite easily, like you do on the surface. And you don't notice any artificial ventilation. No fans blowing the air in, like you need to have in mines, for example, where there are poisonous gases. Here we have a natural ventilation system, which is, let's say, built into the tunnels. We have the low ceilings and the high ceilings. So you saw in the beginning the ceiling's a bit low, here it's a bit higher. Whenever we have a low ceiling in the tunnels, underneath the low ceiling we have high air pressure. This is the point where the air gets compacted, gets pushed forward into a bigger chamber. At several other locations, you're going to go under a low ceiling again, the process repeats, and this is how we have natural air circulation through the tunnels. So wherever we have a side tunnel, it's like we have a fan blowing the air forward. In the previous days, people told me that you can smell a pine scent in the tunnels. This is the smell of the fresh wooden supports that have been put in at the end of the tunnel, 700 meters from the entrance. They are actually pine, so you smell this. And if someone were to light a cigarette, for example, at the very end of the tunnels, you would smell it here in 2 minutes. This is how well the air circulates. But you have the two materials. The material in the walls and the ceiling, as I said, is called the conglomerate material, completely natural, layered here for a huge period of time. 30,000 years ago, the civilizations dug inside it and made the tunnels. They took the excess conglomerate out, transported it to the pyramid of the sun, the location of the pyramid actually, mixed it with melted clay, with water, and shaped the huge blocks that you can see on the pyramid. This is a type of prehistoric concrete, very hard, very solid. We did a lot of tests. It can actually withstand higher pressure than our modern concrete that we use today. And we have the second material, which is this. The loose gravelly fill-up material, brought from the local riverbeds, of the rivers, 5,000 years ago, used to fill up the tunnels. And this is what we are clearing out of here. You see the difference. The conglomerate is firm and compact, while this is loose and gravelly. And for years, we've been clearing the tunnels. So far, we have more than 2 kilometers. Now let's move on. You'll see a lot of still buried tunnels because sadly the foundation right now doesn't have enough resources to clear every tunnel at once. So we are focusing on moving southeast. So you'll see a lot of these tunnels. You see the outline.
Right.
The conglomerate, which is on the outside, firm, compact. You have the fill-up material inside, loose, gravelly. For years, the clearing of the tunnels is conducted by manual labor, by hand, using shovels and wheelbarrows. And whenever we found a tunnel, there was always this in front of the tunnel, with the so-called drywall. You'll see dozens of them actually. We'll get to a bigger one and I'll talk about that in more detail. Imam jednog čovjeka, pa ću malo
Samo
reći ovdje. Hvala vam. Okay, so I mentioned in the beginning the mega ceramic blocks. These are the first three that were discovered in the tunnels. They were discovered in 2006 as this first section was being cleared. When we removed the fill-up material, we saw that the blocks have a strange shape and strange texture. They are kind of different from the stones which are in the conglomerate. Because of the shape, the central block was named the egg-shaped monolith. Because of the egg shape, obviously. And we call it a monolith because it has a weight of 350 kilos. So under 1 ton. Later on you're going to see several megalithic blocks. Blocks that weigh over 1 ton. Bigger than this one. We also did georadar scanning of the block. We saw that it is consisted of 2 parts. The so-called base and the lid. Between the 2 parts there is an air pocket, meaning that the pieces have been made separately and later on they were put together. And the material is very interesting. We did analysis of this material. We took a chunk right here which we broke off. It was sent to several geological institutes throughout Europe. They analyzed it, told us there are 3 ingredients inside it. Sandstone, clay, and bits of quartz crystal which are embedded in this mixture. Now sandstone and clay are generally known as ingredients of ceramics. But ceramics is something that you can't find in nature, it cannot form by itself. So the only way you can get this mixture in such a solid state is if you expose it to a high temperature, i.e. if you bake it. In several locations in the tunnels we found fossilized remains of burnt wood, so possible fireplaces where the blocks were actually made. Bottom line is, you'll never hear any of the guides say that this is a rock or a stone, a natural formation. This is an artificial structure. Because of this material we call them mega ceramic blocks, so man-made. I mentioned the 2 pieces. You see the line which represents the 2 pieces, it separates them actually. But each of the blocks serves a very important function in the tunnels. 25 meters below this block, we detected an underground water stream flowing below the block. It has the exact same width as the block. Now, generally it's known that these waters emanate a type of energy which affects human health in a very bad way. It can even affect the structure of the building above this water stream, also in a negative way. For example, that's why people, at least in these parts, always say it's not a very good idea to build houses over underground waters. It's not a very good idea to live or sleep above underground water streams because people get sick. Floors crack in the house and the ceilings crack because of that stream flowing below the house. Here we have something similar. We have an underground stream emanating this, let's call it negative energy. It rises up, goes up vertically, hits the block from the bottom. This makes the small quartz crystal bits vibrate. They resonate with the rest of the block and generate an electromagnetic field around the block. In physics, this is called the piezoelectric effect. We measure this electromagnetic field throughout the tunnels. It has a frequency of 28 kilohertz. We have the same electromagnetic frequency being emanated from the top of the pyramid, from the top of the tumulus, which is an artificial hill 2 kilometers from the town, and from the top of the pyramid of the moon. So the same exact energy with the same exact frequency. This adds to our claim. Actually, we have a lot of evidence, not only us, but a lot of scientists throughout the world, that pyramids are energy machines. They're not tombs for pharaohs, like Egyptologists would say. These are energy machines, and we measure these energies here. And we are convinced that this is one of the main healing properties of these tunnels. You probably heard that in the previous years we actually saw that people's health improves if they spend time regularly in the tunnels. We have thousands of examples of people healing many illnesses or generally feeling better. So they have some strange properties which make people feel better here. And the electromagnetic field is only one of them. In the end, when you look at the central block, you notice 7 protrusions, like 7 small hills. And here you see 7 holes carved into the side of the block. Now, there's a lot of theories here, but one that prevails is that the 7 protrusions symbolize the 7 structures that make up the Bosnian Valley of the Pyramids. As I said, we have 5 pyramids, and we have 2 artificial hills, the tumuli, or the tumulus in singular. Here, we have 7 holes, representing 7 levels of tunnels. So far, we only discovered 3 levels. This is the first one, Ravne tunnels. The second one is the KTK tunnels, which are flooded, which are at a lower altitude in the town. Recently, we discovered a new complex going just below this one. The entrance to this complex is from the park, the nearby park, Park Ravne 2. If you go down there, in the left hill, on the left side, you're going to see a big entrance. Oh, we also thought it was a cave, just like here, but scanning has shown it's another network of tunnels going below this one. In the previous years, we discovered several entrances in this, around these tunnels, in the entire valley. So, as I said, there's at least 10 kilometers of the tunnel system. There has to be more and more entrances. And in the Pyramid of the Sun, scanning has showed that in the pyramid we have 7 stories, 7 levels of passages and chambers. So this number 7 obviously has an importance here. And if we follow this logic, this theory, there should be 4 huge levels to be discovered in the future. Now, we'll move on. Idete pravo I lijevo, lijevo. Samo lijevo. Samo gasite taj reflektor tu, molim vas. Ima gore prekidač.
Certainly dark enough.
Yeah. Okay, so here we have another drywall. It's a little bit bigger, so you see the symmetry in the alignment of the rocks. And these are rocks, natural. But they're actually rivers. We call them river stones because they've been brought from the local rivers, just like the fill of material. You see, they're round, so water has shaped them through time. Whenever we came upon a drywall, and we call them drywalls because there's no binding material between the rocks. There's no clay or any sort of cement. So whenever we came upon a drywall, we knew there was a tunnel behind it. Here you see a partially clear tunnel going that way. Often people will ask, well, you mentioned the tunnels are 30,000 years old. How do you know that? How do you know they're 30,000 years old? How do you know they've been buried 5,000 years ago? There are several evidences to back that up. The first, let's say, piece of organic evidence, which was discovered in the tunnels, was a fossilized piece of wood, which was discovered sticking out of one of the conglomerate walls. And this is organic material, so you can do an analysis, which is called radiocarbon dating, so age analysis of this material. So you can analyze the piece that was sticking out of into the tunnel. It was analyzed in several laboratories throughout Europe. The analysis confirmed an age of around 30,000 years. Now, this radiocarbon dating cannot be this precise because this is a very old, let's say, piece of wood, very old evidence. So we always say there could be a deviation of 200 to 400 years, plus or minus. So we say around 30,000 years. We have a general estimate. So this is the minimum age of the tunnels. And as we know, that when the tunnels were made, the excess material was taken out, transported to the location of the pyramid, used with melted clay and water to build the blocks, to shape the blocks and build the pyramid from the blocks. In the wall of the pyramid, there are 4 layers of blocks. So if you look at the cross-section of the pyramid, you see four blocks, and for cross-section of the wall of the pyramid, you see 4 blocks. Between them, there's the clay as the binder. And in 2013, one of the archaeologists from New Zealand, Tim Moon, found 2 fossilized leaves in the clay between 2 blocks. So they fell inside the clay during the process of construction of the pyramid, and the top block came on top of them. They were analyzed. Their age was 29,200 years, also with a possible deviation, but very close to the first evidence that was found here. Lastly, in the tunnels, in the fill-up material, we found a fossilized piece of wood. Its age was 4,610 years. And keep in mind, the first one was around 30,000 years. So between them, there's a huge age gap. So possibly, the last piece came into the fill-up material during transportation of the fill-up material and somehow ended up here. So this is evidence that here we had at least two civilizations working. The first one, which made the tunnels and the pyramid around 30,000 years ago, and the second one, which for some reason buried the tunnels 5,000 years ago. Not sure why and not sure how. These are the answers that we're looking for here. Actually, we're clearing the tunnels and trying to go inside the pyramid. What I can tell you, again, is that if you look at these unprotected parts of the sections of the tunnels, the parts that don't have these wooden supports, you always see the same shape of the tunnels. You see the shape of the arch. In architecture, the arch is known as a very strong shape. You see it in bridges, you see it in some cathedral, for example. It can hold a lot of weight, basically. Right now, we're 25 meters below the surface. There's a lot of conglomerate and soil above the tunnels above us. Yet, they remain strong for thousands of years. There's never been a cave-in, never been a collapse of tunnels. So, one conclusion pops up again. They obviously knew how to detect underground water streams. They knew what mixture was required in the block to get this transformation of energy. And they had knowledge of architecture. So they had to have been a developed civilization with possibly developed technology to build such huge structures. Now take into consideration the huge pyramids and the huge network of tunnels underground. Definitely.
Yes.
Okay, so this room is the biggest room so far discovered in the tunnels. It has 50 square meters of surface, 4 to 5 meters in height, depends on where you stand. And you see several tunnels meeting here. You see 3 tunnels which are cleared. You see several tunnels which are not cleared, like this one. You see a smaller tunnel, buried, closed up with this drywall. You see the outline of another one over there. There's one behind that light in the corner, and there are 2 more behind these wooden boards that you can't see right now. So 8 tunnels that meet here. We call it a healing chamber. As I said, maybe I didn't say actually, so we have very high quality air which is in the tunnels. We know this because we measure the concentration of negative ions in the air. Negative ions are basically atoms which have more electrons in their shell than protons in their core, which means they are negatively charged. When they're in the air, they act, we call them natural purifiers of air, because of the negative charge they attract particles of dust, bacteria, microbes, allergens, and because of the weight they set into the ground. So we have measurements that have been conducted on the surface. Generally, it's known that in bigger cities on the street you'll measure between 250 to 450 negative ions per cubic centimeter of air. In the countryside, near rivers and forests, you can measure from 800 to 1,800. The highest measurement ever taken in this country, the highest concentration ever measured in this country, was measured on top of a mountain called Igman near Sarajevo. We measured 5,500 negative ions. But the lowest measurement we ever got in this chamber was 18,000. And it varies. We saw that as we are opening new sections of tunnels, clearing them, as we are opening new chambers, the metal value increases. So here, we read that in September last year, we measured from 40 to 60,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter. So a huge amount. Now, it's worth mentioning that the highest measurement in the world is near the Niagara waterfalls, is around 30 to 35,000 negative ions. But here we have at least 60,000 during summer. In the further sections of tunnels, we have locations where we measure 80,000. One location we have 100,000. And it has proven to be very positive for people who have problems breathing, problems with their respiratory system. I always mention a guest which came here 3 years ago. She was from Slovakia. This lady had a cyst on her lungs, which she had removed with surgery, but her lung capacity decreased to 47%. She had a lot of trouble breathing. She had to sit down every 20 meters walking. Didn't have the energy, and it was a big problem for her. Her doctor actually recommended her to come here because he was here previously. He said it doesn't hurt to try. So she was here for 7 days. In the town, she would go inside the tunnels twice a day, spend 1 hour. In the evening and in the morning, so 1 hour each. After 7 days, she went home, did a regular checkup at her doctor's. It turned out her lung capacity increased to 87% after a week here. And she's only one example. You only need to go to our website, for example, you find these video interviews with people talking about their illnesses, talking about how the situation has improved as they spend time in the tunnels, and there are thousands of them. People with asthma, for example, that came here, spent 1 hour. After this hour, they didn't have to use the inhaler or any kind of medication for days or even weeks. But again, it's our duty as guides, of course, to emphasize that this foundation doesn't do in this professional healing. We are an archaeological organization, and we deal with tourism. Now, we're not a hospital, we're not a healing center, so we can't say, just come, go inside the tunnels and every illness will be cured. So we can't actually claim that. But what we will say is that you only need to take a look at the examples, the huge amount of people that have been here, that have felt better. So there has to be something. Now, it's not even clear to us 100%. It might never be clear, but it is here, and the people are the biggest evidence and the biggest proof that we have something. I always say it doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost very much to spend time in the tunnels.
Is that what all these people are doing?
Yeah.
They're here healing.
People that have been here with the guide, so the first time you have to go with the guide to hear the actual info and to get to know the tunnels a bit. After that, you can go in by yourself. You buy this meditation ticket. I think it costs like €2.5. This is 5 km. You have 1 hour to be here by yourself, and you have people coming in regularly. For example, these people are from Croatia. They come here for a month or two, spend several days, maybe 5 to 6 times a year. So, and we have people from the surrounding towns coming here every day. People from abroad, like this, 2, 3, 4 months, just to spend time in the tunnels every day. I always say it doesn't cost very much to spend time in here, and could be a huge benefit, of course, if you need.
All right. Okay.
No.
There's quite a few people.
Yeah. Samo što lijevo.
Aha. A ovamo je koma.
Bit of a low ceiling over here, so just watch your head as you move through.
Okay. Equalize.
Okay. So this site right here is also very important. We came here in 2007 as we were clearing this section, we found 2 new blocks. These are the first megalithic blocks that were discovered in the tunnel complex. We call them megalithic blocks because they weigh over 1 ton. This one, we called it K1 actually, weighs around 4 tons. That one is K3, weighs around 3.5 tons. They have the same material, just like the first one. We have sandstone, clay, bits of quartz. But here we have 2 underground water streams. Below that one, there's a stream 25 meters below, going in this direction. Here you have a 20 meters below, another stream going that way. So at one point they intersect. The energy is emanated from the water, rises up, hits the blocks from the bottom side, quartz vibrates, and we have this electromagnetic field. So the same purpose. But there's one huge difference. The K1 block was actually discovered by an Egyptologist, Dr. Ali Barakat. He was a very famous Egyptologist back then. He worked with our research team in 2007 and found the actual block. When he cleared the fill-up material, he actually noticed symbols that were carved into the block. Here you see an arrow. See another one here. And the third one is over there.
Oh, I see it way over there, okay.
Yeah. So 3 arrows roughly pointing in the same direction. These are the first visible symbols. This direction is southeast. And as I mentioned, we are trying to follow this exact direction to someday enter the pyramid. Apart from them, you see some lines hardly visible on the block. For example, you have here, you have a lot of them in the first section, right here in the upper part of the block. These lines are also all other symbols, so there are 20 or so other symbols apart from the arrows that were carved into the block. They are hardly visible right now because for thousands of years the block was covered by fill-up material. It partially erased the symbols. Now we have actually a layer of dust and dirt on the block which we can't keep cleaning because the block would get further damaged. That's why we don't allow people to walk over the blocks, to sit on the blocks. Some wanted to sleep on the blocks. Because damages occur, we can't allow that. For example, there was a piece right here. Someone probably stepped on it last year. It broke off in the center. One day, one piece went missing. 2 days later, the second piece went missing. Someone probably took it as a souvenir home. Sad. But we did the laser scanning of the surface of the block, and this is the image we got. So these are the symbols. 20 or so symbols of unknown meaning. At first we believed that we found runes, ancient runic symbols. Now runes are known in history as one of the oldest known alphabets or symbols on European soil. Let's say official history claims that the oldest runes are 2,500 years old, but we have some independent researchers that have evidence that runes date back 8,000 years ago. Whatever the case, we actually believe that this is what we found. But when several experts came here and analyzed this, they told us there are very few similarities between this and the runes. Strictly, we're speaking about this, like an E symbol with 4 lines. You have the strange T right here, like a T symbol, and you have the arrows, which if you point them up vertically, they would represent a symbol which is very similar to an alphabet, to a symbol in the runic alphabet. But if you take the runic alphabet, compare it with this, you'll see that the runes are much more complex than these symbols here. And there are several theories. Now we have to take into consideration the age of the tunnels. So possibly these symbols are older than the runes, at least a few thousand years. The second theory is that because of the similarities, the runes might have evolved from this. It's simpler when comparing it to the runes, so the runes might have evolved from it. That's why we named this set of symbols proto-runic symbols, proto-runic language. So something that came before the runes, possibly. And there have been many attempts to get a translation of them. Many suggestions of translation, you can find them online, but so far it's hard to say that we have one which is 100% scientifically argumented. Of course, there would be a sign right here with, let's say, the official translation of the symbols. It's still very much unknown. It's hard to translate something which is this old. We have nothing to compare it to. And there are a lot of mysteries, not just connected with this, but with the whole tunnel system and the pyramid story. Sometimes I have to say that I don't know the answer to some. I can't answer some questions. No one can, because this is just at the beginning. The research has just started. The project is very young, so much more time needs to be spent in research and in discovering that complex. Let's go this way. So you can see over there. Okay. So this is another megalith. We called it K2. It weighs around 8 tons. This is the biggest block that we show to every group of people that visit the tunnels for the first time. But it's not the biggest block which is in the tunnels. What we actually saw is that as we are deeper in the tunnels or closer to the pyramid, we are discovering bigger and bigger blocks. You saw it yourself today. You saw the first one, which was 350 kilos. The second one, the second group of blocks, 2 of them, 3.5 and 4 tons. This one is 8 tons. Recently, in the deep sections of the tunnels, we discovered another block, called it K5. It's very big, only partially cleared right now. We haven't cleared it fully because it's huge. We estimate a weight of around 100 tons. So very big block. This one has the same material just like the previous one. So you have sandstone, you have clay, you have bits of quartz crystal. You're going to notice that it's not set directly on the ground, on the floor. It's a couple of centimeters above the floor. This is because it was put on a pedestal. You see it here. See the block? and below it you see the pedestal. Between them there's a binder material, calcium carbonate base, like a glue, holding it together. And we have an underground water stream, 21 meters below, flowing from this direction, flowing directly below the block, hitting an unknown barrier, probably some sort of rock, splitting into two streams. And by the same pattern, you see a crack going towards the center. In the center it splits into two cracks. You have a Y shape. So if you remember, I mentioned it at the beginning, people say don't build your houses over underground waters. This is the reason. This is what happens in houses and buildings. You have cracks in the floor, cracks in the ceiling because of these underground streams. The same thing happened here. So because of the high negative energy, the block cracked, and we found it like this. But regardless of that, the quartz ball inside the block. So here we don't actually have small bits of quartz crystal, but inside the block we detected an oval shape of mineral, probably quartz crystal. It vibrates just like the small bits in the other blocks do, resonates with the rest of the block and generates this electromagnetic field. So the same thing happens here. Apart from this electromagnetic field, in the tunnels we also measure ultrasound, which is created when the electromagnetic waves spread from the block, hitting the walls and the ceiling of the tunnels. Always in the pebbles and rocks in the conglomerate, you'll see white lines, you'll see white sections of the stone or the pebble. This is quartz crystal, which is inside the pebble. This quartz crystal vibrates when the electromagnetic waves hit it, resonates with the stones, resonates with the conglomerate, creating mechanical waves, ultrasound, from a frequency of 24 to 42 kilohertz in the tunnels. Now what's really interesting, ultrasound frequency of 24 kilohertz is known as the frequency of ultrasonic levitation, and it is used today. For example, it is used in the IT section of the economy. When they want to put in small microchips, they use ultrasonic levitation. You'll find this also this experiment online. A ping pong ball exposed to this frequency of ultrasound levitates, it floats. Now, when you ask an Egyptologist how do they build the pyramids, they'll say, well, they moved 20-ton blocks by hand, dragging it along the floor. So if you calculate this, a 20-ton block, it takes thousands of strong men to move this block. There's no any way that a person can move such weight. So our main claim right here is that it must have been a developed technology. One theory says that they might have harnessed ultrasound. They had the technology to direct ultrasound into a single point to lift up 18 million tons of conglomerate, which was inside these tunnels, and move it to the pyramid and make the blocks from it. So one thing is certain, might not be ultrasound, but it was a developed technology for sure. Apart from this ultrasound, we measure something called the Schumann resonance. This is a very low frequency of 7.83 hertz. It is known as the natural vibration frequency of the planet. So the planet vibrates at 7.83 hertz naturally. We are born with this frequency. It best suits our brains, our bodies. Somehow our cells are rejuvenated and regenerate in the fastest way when we are under 7.83 hertz. Unfortunately, on the surface, we have destroyed it. Because for the last 100 years, we started emanating radio signals. Now we have wireless internet. Now we have mobile phone signals. All of these are gigahertz frequencies being emanated by our technology, destroying this, raising it up to 14 or even 15 hertz, so double the amount it needs to be. And now we feel this negative influence on our cellular level when we are on the surface. But in these tunnels, we measure 7.83 hertz, the natural vibration frequency of the planet. And people feel it in a lot of ways. A lot of people say they feel relaxed and rested while they're in the tunnels. Others feel sleepy because our bodies mechanically relate the Schumann resonance with sleep. This is the only other time we experience it. We actually feel it every night during the 1 hour of deep sleep, this deep sleep phase, where the body goes down to 7.83 hertz. And that's when we get the most rest. We can sleep for 12 hours, but if we didn't have this 1 hour of deep sleep, we would still get up tired. And this is something that we have here. It's very good for meditation. That's why you'll see a lot of people in the tunnels meditating or coming for health reasons, or both. Now, with every tour, we do a small experiment at this block. You see that poster over there behind. You see people holding their hands above the block.
Mm-hmm.
This is an attempt to get a physical sensation of these energies being emanated from the block. Now, I always say, if you attempt to come to the tunnels again, by yourself, of course, if you intend to do that, I would suggest that you spend half an hour at least by this block, and you can try this. It's a little bit harder in these few minutes, but we're going to try. I'm going to ask you to rub your hands like this. Put them 10 centimeters above the block, like this. So for a few minutes. But in these few minutes, what people always tell me, often tell me actually, I always hear people telling me that they feel a cold breeze on their palms. And to me, this has an explanation, because obviously we have this good air circulation. Of course, there's going to be some kind of breeze. But what happens? I come in here with 14, 15, or even 20 people in one group. Half of the group will say we feel a cold breeze. The other half says we feel a warm sensation on the palms. This really doesn't have an explanation. It somehow differs depending on the person. Now, I have people telling me they feel a warm sensation in one hand, a cold sensation in the other hand. I have people telling me they feel a tingling sensation in their palms, going through their hands, their entire bodies. Especially people who study energies, who are very spiritual, who are very open to this, they feel very strange things here. I have people telling me they don't feel well. For example, that last year I had a lady from Germany in one of the groups. She actually felt very sick right here. I had to take her out before the tour ended. This also very hard to explain. Now, one theory is that for the people that spent all of their lives in big cities, they've been constantly under these gigahertz frequencies, negative frequencies. Their body got used to it. So entering the tunnels for them, it's a bit of a shock. The body needs to get used to it. This also. But she kept coming back. She came back 2 days later, spent 20 minutes. 2 days later, after that, half an hour. Then she kept coming in every week for 1 hour. And whenever you come into the tunnels, you'll see someone. You saw it today. You saw people in the healing chamber. See people here. Always people in the tunnels, coming here for health reasons or meditation. We have people, like I said, from the surrounding towns coming here every day. From abroad coming here for several months. Lately we have people buying land here from Germany, from Slovenia, from Czech Republic, buying land, building houses, moving here to spend the rest of their lives near the pyramids. And if you come in July or August, you can find 100 people inside the tunnels and even more outside waiting to be brought in by the guides. Every year we have tens of thousands of visits. So in the beginning it was we talked about hundreds of people. Now we have tens of thousands. Fortunately, the project is growing and getting bigger, and this is the biggest proof that we have something here. So the people that decide to come here, that spend time, and that come back again, they obviously feel something. Now let's move this way to see the water.
Yeah, I felt it cooler on my hand.
Yes, well, the breeze. People tell me often, I feel it like dragging me inside towards it. If you move your hand up and down, some people feel like they're going through some invisible layers, like water. We now know actually that the block has an aura. Every one of the blocks has an aura, the energy field around it. And there are some strange and unexplained things people tell me. For example, when I first started working here, a lady came from Slovenia and she claimed to be a psychic, something like a psychic. She told me she saw 7 women with blue, pale skin standing around the K2 block.
Watch your head.
Yeah. Okay, we're moving through. I didn't believe her, I thought she was crazy. But 2 months later, a man came from Germany, I think. He told me the same thing. 7 women with blue skin standing around the K2 block. And it kept on repeating for several times. The same thing. Different people seeing the same thing. And for this, we don't have an explanation. Either the people are crazy, all of them, or there has to be something. Now, take a look here. You see water on the other side. This is the water, the tunnel water, which was discovered in the empty sections of tunnels in 2010. Still water, completely clean and clear, as you can see. Perfectly safe to drink. We did a lot of experiments, turned out it has some special qualities. So here we just say to the people, take a look, take a picture, and in the next chamber we're going to take a seat and talk about it further. So this is the second biggest chamber so far discovered. It was discovered in 2010, in the beginning of the year. We arrived from that direction, found a huge amount of fill-up material, we cleared it. Saw this 9 tunnels meet at this area. You see 3 of them cleared and 6 of them buried. Wherever you look, you see a closed-off tunnel. We continue moving south that way. As our workers were clearing the fill-up material in those tunnels, they punctured a hole through the material because on the other side there was nothing, empty space. They widened this hole, they went through it. For the first time since 2006, they entered empty sections of tunnels. So tunnels that weren't buried. And they thought, well, great, now we're just going to take a walk to the pyramid, no more digging. But as they went through, they came upon water. We actually found 2 tunnels. One of them goes this way for 260 meters, the other one that way for 220 meters. Shallow water at the beginning. As you go in deeper and deeper, the water gets deeper. The deepest section in both of the tunnels is 160 centimeters, even though they're not connected and go in completely different directions. They both had channels which were dug into the floor, half a meter deep, basically carved into the floor at 90 degrees. In the beginning, we thought it was a part of a natural well. So the assumption was water came from somewhere naturally, let's pump it out. We pumped the water out for 6 days. For six days, the level dropped a few centimeters. On the 6th day, we turned off the pumps to cool off for a couple of hours. The level just came back up. The water just came back to the original level. So obviously the conclusion is that water is coming from somewhere. And as we know, underneath every pyramid, underneath the main pyramids, actually 3 main pyramids, we have huge accumulations of water. So possibly there might be an accumulation which is at the same altitude or maybe higher, which is connected with this. And when we pump the water out, new water just kept coming in, replenishing the lost water, and the level stayed the same. And we gave up on that because it led nowhere. We can't do anything to the water. So we decided to do microbiological analysis because the water seems very clean and clear. We took a small sample, sent it to a nearby town called Zenica, to the Institute for the Health and Safety of Food. We analyzed the sample, and this is the report we got. In short, they told us the water is perfectly safe to drink. It's pH neutral, no bacteria, no microbes, nothing tainting the water, no organisms in it, even though it's still water. After that, at that time we were already aware that we have this energetic influence in the tunnels, so we wanted to see if this has influenced the water. We took another sample, a bigger one, sent it to Slovenia, to the so-called BION Institute for Bioelectromagnetics and New Biology. They did an experiment. They took the sample to an old folks home for older people in the capital, Ljubljana. They formed 2 groups of people. One of the groups got regular water to drink for 10 days. The other group got tunnel water to drink for 10 days also, but they weren't aware which water they were drinking. After 10 days, they did analysis of blood on all the people. It turned out the second group had huge improvements. For example, the blood pressure normalized, blood sugar levels normalized, the leukocyte count in their blood, which are the white blood cells, increased dramatically. Usually with older people, the leukocyte count drops. This is how their immunity gets weaker, their wounds, cuts, heal slower. And this is how we got the certificate of high energetic quality of the tunnel water from the BION Institute. After that, we got in touch with a Japanese scientist called Dr. Masaru Emoto. He was very famous for his claims and his study of water. He actually claimed that water is alive in a way. It can store information in its crystal structure. It wasn't only affected by physical influences, but by some mental or energetic influences. His famous experiment was that he took several glasses of regular water, put it into different rooms, so separated the water physically. To one of the glasses, he would literally talk to. He would say nice things. He would say that he loved her, that she's beautiful, that she's clean. He would play nice classical music. The other glass got nasty things. For example, he would tell her that he hated her, that she's filthy, dirty. He would play heavy metal music with high distortion levels. Then he froze the water to -4 degrees Celsius, put it under an electron microscope, and these are the images he got. He actually noticed that the water, which was under positive effects, had a perfect crystal structure, like a hexagon, a snowflake, straight lines. And the water, which was under negative effect, had broken crystals, deformed crystal structure. So he basically had proven that water can regulate its crystal structure and depends on this influence. We actually sent a sample of our town water to Dr. Emoto, together with a sample of the tunnel water. This is the town water. Under a microscope, we see no hexagonal crystals, completely deformed structure. Now, first of all, in order to purify our drinking water, we of course put chlorine into water. But chlorine itself is a poison. It also poisons us in high quantities. It flows through plastic tubes, metal tubes, lead tubes in old plumbing systems, which are the worst. And it's exposed to all of the negative frequencies outside. So by the time it gets to the tap in our house, it is energetically dead. It has no healing properties. It can only quench our thirst. While the tunnel water is 40 meters underground, protected from all of it in pitch black in those tunnels, protected from the negative frequencies, under the electromagnetic field that we have here. It's under the high amount of negative ions. That's why we don't have particles of dust. Because of the ultrasound, we have no organisms in the water. Because of the Schumann resonance, perfect crystal structure. So it has been under these effects for thousands of years. And we actually saw in a lot of examples that it has healing properties. Now, sadly, we can't allow people to go inside these tunnels. We can't allow people to touch the water because it would get tainted. We would lose these potentials. And sadly, the project has very little support from the government. You saw it yourself, the infrastructure is lacking. This is because it's been very hard in the beginning. Everything was done to shut us down. Petitions were signed to shut us down. There was a lot of obstructions from the government. There was a lot of negativity from the Egyptologists from Egypt, etc. So we were always dependent on the people that showed their interest. They decide to come here, to pay the ticket, to listen to the guide. Then they're going to go home, they're going to talk to their friend, neighbor, dog, and more people will come. This is how the project grows. We also have the donations, and we have the selling of the souvenirs. You saw that where you bought the tickets. It's a souvenir shop. Basically, on the shelf you could have noticed small glass tinted bottles. This is the tunnel water. To make it available for the people and to have some benefit for the foundation, we decided to bottle it into these containers. It cannot be clear glass because UV rays tarnish the crystal structure, deform it, and the water loses its properties very fast. So it's very sensitive. The only way it can stay protected, it has to be in small glass tinted bottles. And for economic reasons, we suggest that if you buy, that you mix it with regular water. Use it as a mixture. So the ratio is 1 bottle cap of the tunnel water. You pour it into a liter of regular water. Leave it for some time. We suggest actually that you mix it during the night when there's no UV rays. Leave it until the morning. We actually saw under a microscope that the crystal structure of the regular water becomes the same as the tunnel water, so it replicates. This is the transfer of information Dr. Emoto is talking about. Water communicates, it's one way it's alive. So from these 250 milliliter bottles, you can mix 20-25 liters to drink it regularly. But it has to be in glass tinted bottles, mixed or unmixed. So this is very important. Now we're heading this way to one gate.
Neću.
That's
Dobro, kako ste vidio što? Rekao sam, dobro, kako ste se?
Dobro jutro.
Jutro?
Hvala. Good morning. Dobro dan.
Picked up on the greetings.
That's about all I know. Yep. All right.
So, if you have more time today, I would suggest that you take a walk in the park. Park Ravne 2, just below.
Climb about 3 miles to the top of the pyramid. If you want to go to the bottom of the pyramid, you can, or you can go up here. But I don't know. Well, I guess we're gonna see what the top of the pyramid looks like. Can't come all this way not to be on top of the pyramid, huh? All right, bye-bye. Okay, I've walked about a mile and a half. That's where I'm going. And it looks like it's going all the way over that way. So I'll keep going. Holy crap. Just to give you an update. That's where I came from. And all the way up and down and around. That's where I'm going. That's the top of the pyramid. And there's a lot of downs to do a lot more ups. Holy crap. Anyway, I'm gonna make it. I'm determined. Bye bye. I've walked for 2 miles since then, since where that thing is. And this is where you get to. And there's where I'm going. That's the top of the pyramid over there. And this is some little, it's a lodge, Pyramid Lodge. Wow. Okay, crazy. I guess I'm gonna go in here and see if I can use a potty and have a beer and then head back up. And I guess there's a souvenir shop there and more pyramids and more stuff and a dog. Oh look, a monolith. Bye everybody. There's the Pyramid of the Sun up there. That's the top of the pyramid. So I've walked all this way and I'm at this little place called Pyramids Lodge. And so I'm gonna, they have beers, small beers for 3 km and they have Wi-Fi. So I'm gonna sit and have a beer after walking my 2.5 miles, 2 miles to this point. It looks like I have another half mile up to that spot. Anyway,